Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the story of the kid that worked at Costco, worked his way up into the National Hockey League, from Costco to the National Hockey League. The story of Wi-Fi, also known as Arber Xhekaj. So Arber Xhekaj's career kind of started off as any normal young teenager trying to get to the National Hockey League. He was a young player playing up in Canada and was playing in the OHL. He ended up playing for the London Knights, had some experience there, and was a pretty good player. He had some time where, other teams started to watch him. The Hamilton Bulldogs, the team that was formerly of the Montreal Canadiens, they had a lot of scouting teams there in Hamilton. And the first time he really got noticed was from the Rangers' old staff. Some of his head amateur scouts had watched Arber Xhekaj playing and thought he was a pretty good player with some real upside and potential. He was a guy that was good enough on his feet and could move the puck around, but was more so known for his ability to fight and his presence on the ice in terms of what he could provide in the physicality side of the game. Obviously, like anybody, he had to face some adversity. He was a guy that wasn't even on the draft board, was not going to get selected in his draft year, as he did not. And the chances of making the NHL from that point would be very, very slim. But we've seen guys that get drafted in the first round, first overall, and end up being busts. We've seen guys make it undrafted. We've seen guys 7th round picks becoming NHL superstars. A 6th round pick like Braden Point becoming an NHL superstar. So it does happen. And everybody's path to the NHL is slightly different, but it all comes up the same at the end, which is making it to the big leagues and getting paid NHL money. So Arber Xhekaj had some adversity in the sense he wasn't drafted. He had dealt with some issues at home in the sense of trying to pay for his ability to stay in hockey. Obviously the pandemic didn't really help things for him either. But this was a guy that was in the right places at the right time. And despite being undrafted, some pretty high up scouts in Montreal had been noticing him at different points. And this is when he started to get his opportunity. Now, the problem was he worked at Costco. He was packing out shelves and doing all that kind of stuff, stocking shelves and things like that. And, it got to a point where he was coming in late a lot. His schedule with hockey and working was quite difficult. But he needed the job because he knew that he needed the funds to pay for continuing his hockey development. And it got to a point where management actually sat him down and said, listen, Arber, this isn't really working. And, you really have to invest more time into work and kind of take away this dream of hockey. And Arber said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm sticking with the NHL. I don't think they realized, he said in a comment, which I'll post throughout the video, he said, I don't think my manager knew how far along I actually was and how close I was to getting to the National Hockey League. And I'm getting to the point where he actually was let go by Costco. And he ended up leaving, and he ended up going, and I believe he was building houses or something like that. It said it in the article from The Athletic. I don't want to give out too much from the article, but it was very interesting to see how this kid who that traditional story of the rags to riches, right? The guy that a year ago was, stocking shelves at Costco and now is a player in the National Hockey League and giving guys like Pat Maroon a pretty good fight at the Bell Center. It's just insane to see how things kind of work out like that for some guys. And he really had to, he had to put it all out on the line. And he's one of those guys that did it the non-traditional way, but still found his way into a NHL lineup. And you look at his numbers so far in the NHL. He's 21 years old, 6'4", 238 pounds. He's a pretty big boy. And in his first season with the Montreal Canadiens this year, he's got 34 games with the National Hockey League's Montreal Canadiens, which in its own right is sort of a big deal. He's got 5 goals, 7 assists for 12 points in those 34 games. And he's already racked up 65 penalty minutes with the Montreal Canadiens this year. So to say the least, this is a guy that can do some pretty good things. He scored 2 power play goals. Of his 5 goals, 2 of them were on the power play. So this is a guy that can, play on the power play, has power play minutes. There's a lot of potential with Arber Xhekaj moving forward. And like I said, just a year ago, this was a kid that may never get a chance in the NHL. And just like that, things turned in his favor. And this is a guy that showed that dedication, his ability to fight through some adversity. He's from Hamilton, Ontario. And this is a kid that is now playing in one of the most prestigious, not only in the NHL, but one of the most prestigious franchises in the National Hockey League, in the Montreal Canadiens. And I know that they are taking to him quite well and is quickly becoming a fan favorite in Habs Nations. Guys, that's it for today's video. Wanted to give you, kind of an interesting story here on Arber Xhekaj and kind of his story of how he rose from being an undrafted guy that got let go from Costco because he was coming to work late, all of a sudden, to fighting Pat Maroon and the Montreal Canadiens sweater. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.